about your book, the allegation that you published sensitive information. Just to be clear, when that happens, if that were to happen, if you published a book that had classified information without the approval or the clearance of the federal government and the CIA, they would absolutely have come after you. They've done that with other people. If you publish things you're not supposed to publish that are national secrets, they'll come for you. Tell me about this.
Well, the book went through a 4-month-long pre-publication review, which is typical for books by senior officials in the national security space. And at the end of it, the official who conducted the review had made a decision there was no classified information in the book and that the book could be published. Well, what Trump didn't like was not the classified information point, and you'll notice in that executive order it says sensitive information, not classified information, and it was sensitive because much of it was critical of him. So he tried to order another review to get the outcome he wanted. Now, let me just say, that throws the entire pre-publication review process into grave peril, because if it's manipulated by presidents for political purposes, that does threaten the First Amendment. But the book was cleared. There's no classified information in it. It was never my intent to disclose classified information. And in the almost 5 years now since the book did come out, I haven't heard anybody point to anything in it that was classified. This is Trump reflecting he just doesn't like to be criticized.
Yeah. One of the things that came up in the declassification, taking people's security clearances away, I remember having this conversation with the former CIA director, John Brennan. The argument was that you all use your security clearances for personal profit. Brennan made an interesting point to me once, and I want to know what you think about this. He said, I don't really use the security clearance for anything, but when the government needs to consult me about ongoing things, which they sometimes have to, they gotta sometimes reach into the past and say, hey, Bolton, you were at the UN when X, Y, or Z happened. We want to talk to you about this. You need your security clearance in order to get the latest information. Talk to me about the relevance and or dangers of revoking security clearances of people who once had them.
Well, I think it's a mistake to revoke clearances for political purposes. In my case, I'm not even sure I have a valid security clearance anymore. I haven't since I've resigned in September of 2019, to my knowledge. I haven't had an update of my background investigation, for example, in 6 or more years. I can't even remember when the last one was. I don't think you need a security classification if you have had a senior role before, if the current administration determines that they want to talk to you. I'll give you an example. Remembering the famous Chinese balloon incident, the Chinese balloon that floated happily across the United States, a number of former Trump administration officials were called in individually to be given briefings on what the government knew about the Chinese balloon question. And I received one of them. And I signed a series of non-disclosure agreements that I wouldn't reveal classified information. That can be done at any time. And in normal administrations, signing that agreement's enough. Your word should be your bond after you've held high-level clearances to get it for a special purpose and then move on.
Talk to me about the reason we actually invited you on the show, and that's specifically about your own personal security. Donald Trump has removed your protection, that of Mike Pompeo and others with whom he disagrees either politically or with whatever you've done. Talk to me about this decision for you and how it affects future members of government who are going to be forced to make dangerous and personally perilous decisions on an ongoing basis.
Well, the president has the authority to designate Secret Service protection for individuals that he determines who are not necessarily part of the government. So do other agencies of the government. For example, in a case of a former Secretary of State or a current Secretary of State, that's provided by the Diplomatic Security Bureau at the State Department. But in my case, since I had been at the White House, Biden decided to provide Secret Service protection because of the threat level that the intelligence community was picking up from Iran for retaliation for the elimination of Qasem Soleimani, who is a dangerous terrorist responsible over many years for the deaths of hundreds of Americans, obviously ordered by President Trump, and he was at the top of the list of people being threatened. the concern about the threat level, in my case, which maybe was a little more advanced than some others, resulted in criminal charges being filed by the Justice Department against Shahmanpour Safi, an official of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, for trying to hire a hitman to assassinate me. Now, the question of the threat level, and that's on the website of the Justice Department, or at least it used to be, the question of the threat level is something that's reviewed on a continuous basis. And in fact, just in the days before the inauguration, I was informed again that the threat level remained as it has been for several years. And I might say for viewers who don't know this process, neither I nor anybody else assessed as targets of the threat have anything whatever to do, no direction or control or influence at all over the determination of the threat. That's made purely by professionals in the intelligence community.
Ambassador, what you saw when Joe Biden sent that message to the Iranians, say you can't kill Donald Trump and you can't kill any other former or current U.S. officials, that would be an act of war. Do you believe that's true? And what would happen if that happened to you or one of these people who have been targeted? How should the U.S. react?
Well, for in the case of everybody, it's not just me, but all of those who have been covered because of the Iranian threat since they left the government. It is the Iranians are after us for actions that were taken as part of our official government duties.
Officer Michael Fanone is back with us. Officer Fanone, help me understand something. You spoke with our colleague Ryan Riley on Thursday. He reported that you spoke with victim services advocates at DOJ about trying to get restraining orders against some of these January 6 rioters who nearly killed you, as you just detailed. They refused to give you info on the assailants that would help you secure those restraining orders, telling you from the perspective of the new DOJ, quote, you are no longer a victim. How then are you supposed to protect your family if you don't have access to that vital information?
Yeah, I mean, it alleviates the possibility of obtaining protective orders. The way a protective order works is that, once you've applied for it, you're given a 2-week period. During that time, law enforcement has to make attempts to serve the individuals. Now, these guys were scattered like sticks to the wind when they were released from the Bureau of Prisons. And so, me being able to obtain that information on my own is virtually impossible. And so I looked to the Department of Justice, who, prior to Trump taking office, had considered me a victim for purposes of, these criminal prosecutions. And literally 9 a.m. The morning after Trump's inauguration, I was told that because the criminal convictions had been vacated and that, there was no pending cases, that I was not entitled to addresses or other pertinent information that I could use to obtain those protective orders. And so obtaining them now is an impossibility. Really, to be honest with you, the only alternative I have is relocating myself and my family members and buying a gun.
Just let that sit. Let that sit. Like that is, and some might say, oh, well, that's not the only recourse you have. But to be clear, what are your other options except to relocate and to protect yourself?
Correct.
And the government, it seems, has left you out to dry. I wonder, have Democratic or not even Republicans, because Lindsey Graham was just on Meet the Press and he said he believes pardoning the most violent offenders from January 6th was a mistake. And it's like, thank you, Senator Graham. I wonder if he told the president. Thank you for about almost a week later weighing in here. Very important, which I think it's important that he said it, but actions do speak louder than words. Have members of Congress reached out to you? Have people offered your support? Because I think for people to hear you say you feel like your only option is to relocate your family and buy a gun, that is the reality of your current situation. Who is reaching out to offer any additional assistance, if you will? No one.
All of my family is somebody's constituent, and no members of Congress have contacted me offering any type of support. No one in the government, no one in law enforcement. And when you talk about law enforcement, in the past, I always told my family members that they need to report these incidents. And unfortunately, law enforcement has just proven to be feckless in its ability to protect us, to do anything preemptively and or dedicate any type of resources despite the level of threats, the vicious
remains in hotel. The FEMA is full. The bill under its traditional housing assistance program. While, while these families were approaching a late January deadline that would have removed them from the hotels, FEMA announced this week it extended the deadline to May 26. In total, more than 300 families are eligible for the program extension. It has been a horrible thing that the way has been vested and we are going to get it fixed up, Trump said. Reporters at the White House on Friday prior to